It is the evening after, and you open the refrigerator, and there sits the bowl of rice from last night. It has gone hard. The grains have turned dry and separate, and a little crunchy, clumped together in a cold, stiff lump. You know what happens next. You put it in the microwave. You press the button, and a minute later you take out rice that is worse than before. Some of it scorching hot and rubbery, some of it still cold in the middle. The outside grains dried out to little pebbles, the whole bowl uneven and tired. You eat it because you do not want to waste it, but it is not good, and a part of you already knows that half of it will end up in the bin. Let me say it plainly, that cold rice was not ruined, it was only sleeping, and the microwave is the wrong way to wake it. Come with me into my kitchen. My wife Yuki has a bowl of day-old rice too. We have it most every day, for we cook rice most every day. She does not put it in the microwave to blast it. She wakes it gently, with a little steam and a little water, the way her mother taught her. And in a few minutes, that hard, cold, clumped rice comes back soft and warm and separate and fragrant, tasting very nearly as though it were cooked fresh that moment. The same rice you were about to give up on. Brought fully back to life for nothing. The trouble with reheated rice is not the rice. Understand that first, because it is the whole of the matter. Rice does not go hard because it is old or spoiled. It goes hard because of what the microwave then fails to fix. When rice cooks, each grain drinks up water and turns soft and plump. But as cooked rice cools, that water slowly leaves the grain, and the starch inside it tightens and hardens again. This is why cold rice turns stiff and dry. To bring it back, you must return what it lost. You must give it back a little moisture and gentle warmth, together. And that, plainly, is the one thing a microwave does not do. A microwave only heats. It drives what little water remains out of the grain as steam, and leaves the rice drier and harder than before, not softer. You were using the one tool that makes the problem worse. Think about what that cost you, quietly, day after day. Rice is one of the cheapest, most patient foods there is. But leftover rice, reheated badly in the microwave and found unpleasant, is thrown away in kitchens all over the world every single day. A scoop here, a bowlful there. It seems like nothing, but a family that cooks rice often and bins the leftovers half the time because the reheated rice was dry and sad, throws away real food and real money across a year. And worse, they come to believe that leftover rice is simply no good, when the truth is only that no one ever taught them how to warm it. Here in Japan and across all of Asia, where rice is eaten at nearly every meal, no one throws away yesterday's rice. It would be unthinkable. Instead, over many centuries, people learned gentle ways to bring cold rice back to life. With steam, with a splash of water, with a hot pan, even by pouring hot tea or broth right over it. These ways are old and simple, and they work because they understand what the rice actually needs. And once you learn even one of them, plainly, you will never press that microwave button on a bowl of cold rice again. My name is Kenji Takara. I am 81 years old, and I live in Okinawa, in the south of Japan. Yuki has been reviving cold rice this way since she was a small girl. Her mother taught her, and her mother's mother before that, in years when not a single grain of rice was ever wasted, because rice was precious, bought or grown with hard work, and to throw it away was a kind of shame. We have a word for that shame, motenai. It means the sorrow of letting something valuable go to waste. And a bowl of good rice, hardened overnight and then thrown in the bin because it was warmed the wrong way, is exactly the kind of small, daily waste that Word was made to prevent. And here is the quiet truth no one thinks to tell you. There is no money in teaching you that yesterday's rice can be made as good as fresh, with a spoon of water and a little steam. There is a great deal of money in selling you those little plastic pouches of microwave rice, the ones cooked for you and sealed in plastic, that you buy again and again precisely because you gave up on saving your own. The gentle way costs nothing. It uses only water and heat and a few minutes. No one hid it from you on purpose. You were simply handed a microwave and never shown the better way. Quick word before I begin, and I won't bring it up again. Everything I share here, there's far more of it than fits in one video. So I gathered it all into one book, the Takara method. And right now I'm keeping it at a special price, lower than it'll normally be. The link's in the description, or point your phone at the code on screen. That's all. Now let me show you today's. By the end of this video, you will know several gentle ways to bring cold, hard rice back to life so it tastes freshly cooked. The steam method above all, but also the pan, the pot, and the old trick of hot broth poured right over it. I will show you the plain science of why rice hardens and how to reverse it, the exact method for each way, the honest and very important warnings about keeping rice safely, how to use every last grain, and what it saves you in a year. So let us begin. And the first thing to understand is the one idea underneath all of it. Cold rice did not lose its life. It only lost its water. Give the water gently back with warmth, and the rice returns. Let me show you exactly how. Starting with the best way of all, the steam. First, the science, plainly. Why does cooked rice turn hard when it cools? And why does steam bring it back when the microwave cannot? When you cook rice, something happens inside each grain that is worth understanding, because the whole lesson rests on it. Raw rice is full of hard, tightly packed starch. When you add water and heat, that starch drinks up the water, swells and softens. The grains turn plump and tender and separate. The scholars call this gelatinization. You may simply call it cooking. The rice is soft because water has worked its way inside the starch and opened it up. Now, as the cooked rice cools, that process quietly runs backward. The water begins to leave, and the starch tightens and recrystallizes, packing itself hard again. The grains turn stiff, dry, and crunchy. There is a name for this, too. It is called retrogradation, the starch going back toward its hard state. This is exactly what has happened to the cold, clumped rice in your refrigerator. It is not spoiled. Its starch has simply hardened, and its water has fled. Here is the hopeful part, the heart of the whole matter. This hardening can be reversed. Give the rice back gentle heat and a little moisture together, and the starch softens once more, drinks the water back in, and the grain returns to plump and tender. Heat and moisture together, that is the key, and you must have both. And now you see plainly why the microwave fails. The microwave brings heat, yes, but no moisture. Worse, it drives out the little water the rice had left as steam, and so it hardens and dries the rice even as it heats it. Steam, on the other hand, brings heat and moisture together, exactly what the rice lost. That is why steam works where the microwave cannot. It is not magic. It is simply giving the grain back the two things it needs at the same time. Now what you need? Almost nothing, which is the beauty of it. You need your cold rice. You need a little water, and you need a way to make gentle steam, a pot with a lid, or a steamer, or even a heat-proof bowl, and a plate to cover it. That is the whole of it. For the other methods, a pan or a pot, or simply some hot broth or tea. No special equipment, no pouches to buy. Let me give you the methods now, one at a time. The first method, and the best, steaming. This brings cold rice back the closest to freshly cooked, and it is very simple. Take your cold rice and break up the clumps gently with your fingers or a spoon, so the steam can reach every grain. Put it in a heat-proof bowl and sprinkle over it a small amount of water, about 1 tablespoon of water for each cup of rice. Just a sprinkle. You are not soaking it. Now set that bowl in a steamer over simmering water, or on a plate or rack inside a pot with an inch of simmering water in the bottom, and put the lid on. Let it steam gently for about 5 minutes, until the rice is hot all the way through, and the grains have turned soft and plump again. The water you sprinkled on, and the steam rising around it, sink back into the grains and undo the hardening. Fluff it gently with a spoon, and it is as good as fresh. This one method, plainly, will change how you treat rice forever. The second method, the lid and splash on the stove. If you have no steamer set up, this is nearly as good and even quicker. Put the cold rice in a small pot or a pan. Sprinkle over the same small amount of water, a tablespoon or 2 per cup of rice. Put a tight lid on the pot and set it over low heat. What happens inside is the same thing. The water heats, turns to steam, is trapped by the lid, and gently soaks back into the rice. In 3 to 5 minutes, lift the lid, fluff the rice, and it is soft and hot. Keep the heat low and the lid on, so the steam does its quiet work and the bottom does not scorch. A splash of water, a lid, low heat, a few minutes. That is all. The third method, the hot pan, for a different pleasure. Sometimes you do not want yesterday's rice to merely return to plain rice. You want to make it into something new and even better. This is where fried rice was born, plainly, out of the wish to use up cold rice. Day-old rice is in fact better for frying than fresh, because it is drier and firmer, and does not turn to mush in the pan. Heat a little oil in a pan, break up the cold rice, and fry it over good heat, tossing, until it is hot and the grains dance separately. Add a little soy sauce, an egg, whatever vegetables or scraps of meat you have. The very dryness that made the cold rice unpleasant to eat plain is exactly what makes it perfect here. The problem becomes the gift. Let me place one quiet thing here. The way Yuki keeps a small notebook by her stove where she has written which way she revived the rice and how it came out. So the best method for each kind of rice is never forgotten. Keep your own small record. Your hand will learn these things quickly, and the paper will hold them until it does. The fourth method, the gentlest and oldest of all, hot broth or tea poured right over. In Japan, we have a beloved humble dish called ochazuke, cold rice in a bowl, with hot green tea or hot dashi broth poured straight over it. The heat of the liquid warms and softens the rice where it sits, and in a moment you have a soothing, brothy bowl, often with a few simple toppings, a bit of pickled plum, some seaweed, a scrap of fish. It is the food of a quiet evening, of a tired night, of using up the last of the rice with grace. No pan, no steam, no waiting. Just hot liquid over cold rice, and a bowl of comfort. It is perhaps the purest answer of all to the question of what to do with yesterday's rice. Now the honest scope, and here I must be more serious with you than usual, because with rice there is a real safety matter that too few people know, and I will not send you off without it. Please listen closely. Cooked rice is not like other leftovers. Uncooked rice can carry the spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus, and these spores can survive the cooking. If cooked rice is then left to sit for a long time at warm room temperature, those spores can wake, multiply, and produce a toxin that causes sickness. And here is the hard part. That toxin is not destroyed by reheating. Steaming or frying the rice later will not make it safe again. So the safety is all in the cooling and the keeping before you ever reheat. The plain rules are these. Do not leave cooked rice sitting out at room temperature for hours. Cool your leftover rice quickly, within an hour or so of cooking, not left on the stove all evening, and get it into the refrigerator. Keep it cold, in a covered container, and use it within a day, or at most 2. When you reheat it, by any of the ways I have shown you, heat it until it is steaming hot all the way through. Reheat it only once. And the last, plain rule: if rice has been left out overnight at room temperature, or smells off, or is slimy or strange, do not try to revive it and do not taste it. Throw it away. Matanai teaches us never to waste, but it never, ever asks us to risk our health. A bowl of spoiled rice is a lesson, not a meal. Follow these rules, and reviving rice is both safe and a joy. Ignore them, and no reheating method can protect you. So cool it fast, keep it cold, use it soon, and heat it well. Now Matanai, the heart of all this, wasting not a single grain. Once you know how to bring cold rice back to life, a whole world of thrift opens up. For leftover rice is one of the most useful things in any kitchen. Revived by steam, it is plain rice again, ready for any meal. Fried in a pan, it becomes a feast from scraps. The fried rice that uses up not only the rice but the last of the vegetables, the lonely egg, the final slices of meat, all in one pan. Poured over with hot broth, it is a gentle soup bowl supper, and there is more still. Cold rice can be pressed into little rice balls with a salty or sour filling and wrapped in seaweed to be carried as lunch. It can be dropped into a soup to thicken and fill it. It can even, if you remember an earlier lesson of ours, be spread thin and dried in the sun to keep for months. One pot of rice, cooked once, need never be wasted. It can feed you again and again, in a dozen different shapes, if only you know how to wake it. That is Matanai, standing at the stove with yesterday's rice, and seeing not a chore, but a gift. Now the honest math, plainly. Rice itself is cheap. That is part of its quiet grace. But waste is waste, and it adds up. A household that cooks rice several times a week and throws away the hardened leftovers even half the time is binning cooked food steadily across the year. And worse, is often replacing it with those little microwave rice pouches at $2 or $3 each, buying back, in expensive plastic, exactly the rice they threw away. Learn to revive your own, and you stop both leaks at once. You stop throwing away the leftovers, because now they are good again, and you stop paying for the pouches, because you no longer need them. Across a year, between the food no longer binned and the pouches no longer bought, a family can easily keep $100, $200 in its pocket for the price of a spoonful of water and 5 minutes of steam. Plainly, the method is free, and it pays you every single week. So here is what I ask you to do this week. The next time you face a bowl of cold, hard rice, do not reach for the microwave. Instead, break up the clumps, put the rice in a heat-proof bowl, Sprinkle over a tablespoon of water for each cup and set it in a covered pot over an inch of simmering water for about 5 minutes. Then fluff it and taste. Taste how soft and warm and fresh it has become. That one bowl of revived rice will tell you, better than all my words, everything this lesson has been about. And tell me something in the comments. When you were young, what did your mother or your grandmother do with the leftover rice? Was there a dish in your family, a fried rice, a rice pudding, a soup, a pancake that turned yesterday's rice into today's supper? Those small, thrifty dishes are exactly the kind of wisdom that vanishes when no one writes it down. Share yours. I read every single one. Next time, since today we learned to bring cold rice back to life, I will show you how Yuki turns a bowl of that revived rice, an egg, and a handful of humble scraps into a full and satisfying fried rice that feeds the whole family for just a few coins. The same care, the same waste-nothing heart. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Until then, remember the whole of it in one breath. Set down the microwave, give the cold rice back a sprinkle of water and a few minutes of gentle steam, and the hard, tired grains you were ready to throw away become soft, warm, and fresh, as though cooked just now.